Let's start with Reagan and Republicans, then we'll do Carter and Biden. We pulled a bit, which you highlight in the book, from Reagan's election eve address to the nation in 1980 before he would win in a record landslide. Listen to his messaging.
For the first time in our memory, many Americans are asking, does history still have a place for America, for her people, for her great ideals? There are some who answer no, that our energy is spent, our days of greatness at an end, that a great national malaise is upon us. They say we must cut our expectations, conserve and withdraw, that we must tell our children not to dream as we once dreamed. During this last year, I've had a chance to meet and talk on the campaign trail with Americans in every corner of the United States. I find no national malaise. I find nothing wrong with the American people. Oh, they're frustrated, even angry at what has been done to this blessed land. But more than anything, they're sturdy and robust as they've always been.
My God, is it any wonder he won the way he did?
Don't you wish we had that today? And that's actually one of the big points of the book is, yes, there are all these parallels between Biden and Carter. We can talk about some of them. But what I wanted conservative readers to take away was what came after Jimmy Carter. And that was, he so mismanaged the country. And there was such an enormous backlash that there was this great opening for any conservative who came along. But we, in particular, happened to have one who was the great communicator. And I make the argument in the book that we're seeing a similar backlash to Biden policies. We're also seeing similar demographic changes on the ground in terms of how different minority voters, for instance, who they're aligning with, what the kind of policies are that they reject on Biden. And if the Republican Party were able to come up with someone that was another Reagan-like character, somebody who not just had plans and policies and said what they were going to do that was different, but who expressed some optimism, I think that you could win in a landslide. And that is my one concern a little bit about the field. We've got some guys like Tim Scott, they're very sunny, but our leaders are still much more interested in just the fight. And we have to show the fight. We have to show the fight, but we have to have an optimistic vision for the country too.
You know, Vivek Ramaswamy got a standing ovation at the Iowa Forum, and he sounds the way you're saying it would be nice to have somebody sound. But I'll be honest, even though I'm a huge Vivek fan, and I think he's a good man, and I have personal stories of people I know who he's really helped, so I really believe it's true, he's a good person. I have to be honest, in my political analysis, it felt like he's not inspiring people in the way, anything close to the way that a Ronald Reagan did. So it takes more than just the right message. You know, there has to, like Reagan, maybe it was his acting history. I don't know what but he had a way of turning the phrase and delivering the message that just resonated. I mean, I got chills listening to that. What presidential candidate, left or right, has given you the chills in the past 10 years?
No. I mean, and partly because, he had that little thing, Megyn, called humor. And he knew how to smile. When was the last time you actually saw a politician actually look joyful about their job and what they're doing, and who actually said, this is an amazing place, and this is why we should be so proud, and here's how we're going to do it. There's anger out there in the country, and I get it, and I understand that politicians feel that they need to channel that and tap into it. But when we talk about leaders, it's because we actually want people who are going to go a little bit their own way and lead. And we'd love to have them lead us to a better feeling of optimism and to a vision that they have. And I think that that's what's missing in so many of our leaders is a smile, the ability to have some humor, and the ability to remind people about what really matters.
You write in the book about being a little girl. We're about the same age in the 70s, and hearing your mom rip on Carter. It's funny because I also remember going for the first time ever with my mom to the voting booth on election day, and this is back in the day when you'd let your kids sit in the car and you'd go away as the parent.
Exactly.
And I sat in there waiting, and she came back, and I said, "Who'd you vote for?" And she goes, "That's private." I'm 5. What do you? And she goes, "I voted for Ford." And to this day, my mother denies that she voted for Ford. But I'm telling you, Kimberly, she voted for
You
Ford.
You remember it. No,
I do. I
my
remember
mom,
it.
that she was actually yelling curses out the window at Jimmy Carter, but I remember it. So our moms, they tend to blank some of this stuff, but we remember.
But it was a very dark time in our country's history. And when the way you draw the parallels between the mistakes Carter made and how we got sucked into that awfulness and the mistakes Biden has made and how we're getting sucked into it again is very compelling. Can you talk about some of the parallels?
Yeah, thanks. And here's the thing is if you look at it on its face, there does seem to be these incredibly eerie comparisons. It's almost creepy, whether it's inflation, whether it's energy prices, whether it's disastrous foreign policy. A lot of people don't know this, but actually we've had two presidents in modern history that had an immigration flood. Guess who they were? Obviously Joe Biden right now. Jimmy Carter had the Mariel boat lift, which absolutely overwhelmed Florida at the time. And it was done because of very poor policies. But the book is also making the case, and I think this is really important, that this comparison nonetheless is totally unfair to Jimmy Carter for a couple of reasons. I mean, one is because, Jimmy Carter inherited a lot of the problems. Now, he made them much better, okay? But, the 1970s, we were already in the great inflation. Inflation was about what it is today when he took office. We'd already had an oil shock, so he was dealing with energy things. We didn't have a country that had had a fracking revolution. My argument is Joe Biden had none of those problems when he came in. In fact, he had an economy that was preparing to round the corner from COVID and roar back into full bloom. We had an energy sector that was hugely independent and a world leader, and he managed to proactively wreck those situations. So that needs to be one difference. But the other difference is he had all of Jimmy Carter's lessons to learn from. He was in the Senate when Jimmy Carter was already president. And he also had Reagan to know. He knew better than to take these progressive steps that he did. And so he really does deserve a lot more blame than even Jimmy Carter.
Reagan's famous for, among other great lines, government is not the solution to your problem. Government is your problem or the problem. And as you take us back to the Carter years, and again, comparing him to Biden, it is very clear why he said that, believed that, and why that was part of his message. Carter and Biden both believe exactly the opposite. They've both expanded government. They've both handicapped private industry and see it as a hindrance to a booming economy, not the lifeblood of it.
Yep, it was an absolute staple. It has been a staple of Biden's time and also Jimmy Carter. Look, Jimmy Carter gave us two new cabinet departments, Department of Energy and the Department of Education. And for those who, by the way, who think that, and they're right to talk about the moral differences. Jimmy Carter was a moral man, and I certainly think you give him that due, but he played politics with the best of them. We have the Department of Education because he bought himself the endorsement from the National Education Association, and that's how he got it, is that I'll make you a Department of Education. He was a total technocrat. He believed that government could fix everything. We had 15 major pieces of environmental legislations under him. And Joe Biden's been a repeat, although I would again argue worse. Give Jimmy Carter this. He at least believed that corporations could be a force for good in the country. And he even deregulated a few areas. Joe Biden has got a gang of regulators that operate from the premise that corporations are evil and that they need to be stopped from doing what they are doing. Add in there all of the spending and government programs, and we have arguably not had anything even close to repeating what Jimmy Carter did until now.
Summer used to mean I was kicking off the sheets every night to try to stay cool. Perhaps you've been there. But that all changed, thanks in part to my discovery of Cozy Earth bedding. I now sleep comfortably, even on those hot, awful nights, and you can too. Simply swap out your current sheets for soft, breathable, temperature-regulating sheets from Cozy Earth, the brand with thousands of 5-star reviews, including my own. If you do not agree that you are sleeping cooler, more comfortably this summer, they will refund your purchase price plus shipping, no questions asked, and you get 100 nights to try them out. How can Cozy Earth make such a guarantee, right? After 100 nights, if you don't like it, send it back in, you get a refund. How? Because their bedding is made from viscose, from bamboo, so it traps less heat, enabling people to sleep cooler, more comfortably year-round. For a limited time, save up to 40% on Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com, enter my promo code MEGYN at checkout, and that will save you up to 40% off your order. Try them for 100 nights. If you don't sleep cooler, send them on back in for a full refund. cozyearth.com, promo code Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.